What's going on? My name is Ashley and you're watching AT Yo-Yo Superstar. Today we're going to talk about when you buy your brand new yo-yo either online or in person and then you're like, this isn't what I expected. Just tonight I bought the Beanie from Throwing Sideways, which is a very good yo-yo. However, when I started playing with it, I was like, It wasn't what I was expecting at all until I made a modification to it, and then it was playing like, I don't even know, it plays great. But I think about how many times this happens to me and maybe some other players where you buy a yo-yo and you don't get what you expected. So today's video is a few reasons why you may hate your brand new yo-yo. Like I said, I got this brand new Beanie yo-yo and it was slipping out of my hand and doing all these weird things and I was like, what is going on? So number one is the string. Now this is a beautiful string actually. It's purple and white and purple's my favorite color. And it's very soft, it was very comfortable when I put it on, so I wasn't expecting this to be the problem. However, the strings that I'm used to playing with are cage-free, kitty string, reticulated return tops. Those are all much thicker strings than what was provided in this package, and they feel a little different. They're made out of different materials, so this one was very soft, and I was losing my grip on it while I was trying to do my whip tricks. I already struggle with whip tricks, so let's not. So all I did was I switched out the string, so now I have a cage-free string on this guy because it's more comfortable for me. Besides the type of string that you're using, you also want to make sure that your string is not too old, not too dirty, not too long or too short, because all of those things are going to make you play a little differently. Number two is the bearing, and you might have discovered this already. As many of you know, there's responsive bearings and there's unresponsive bearings. If you got an unresponsive bearing by mistake, that was probably a rude awakening. If you don't know how to bind yet, it's very hard to play with an unresponsive yo-yo. So make sure if you're playing responsive play, you get a responsive bearing. If you're playing unresponsive play, you get an unresponsive bearing, because otherwise tricks are going to be very hard. In addition to a bearing being responsive or unresponsive, you also have your different tracks on a bearing. Let's see if the camera can focus. This is actually a center track bearing. There's also concave bearings and there's also flat bearings. These all play differently. There isn't one best bearing. It really depends on what you prefer. But it might all depend on the type of play that you're doing, the style of yo-yo that you're using, or even the string that you're using. So play with a lot of different bearings and get used to what you like, and then you'll start to develop a preference. And if you're having trouble with your yo-yo responding or the yo-yo dying in the middle of a trick or something like that, you may want to just switch out your bearing. In addition to that, make sure you have the correct response pads for your bearing. They need to be the correct size, and sometimes yo-yos will come with cheap response pads. Get some nice response pads for your yo-yo, and then your yo-yo should respond appropriately. Just like the string, make sure that you're changing them out when they get old, because otherwise your yo-yo's not gonna respond. Okay, we've got the string, we've got the bearings and response pads. Number three is the shape of the yo-yo. This one I struggle with so much because I love collecting lots of different yo-yos, but they're all different shapes, and there's some shapes that I do better with and other shapes. So here are some examples of some yo-yos that I didn't like right away, but now I do very much like them. The Overture. I was not used to this very organic shape on the outside. I'm really used to an angular shape. The Roadrunner by Duncan. A really nice pocket-sized yo-yo. Great big gap. Wasn't used to it. Didn't play with it. Had to come back to it. Don't laugh at me. The Shutter Gentry Signing YoYoFactory. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what I was doing with this thing. The shape is so unique to this yo-yo, and I didn't even know that you could like start the yo-yo with this cup in the middle. So my point is, all of these yo-yos are going to play differently because of how they're shaped, and they're going to do some things better than others. I like to say that each yo-yo has a language that they speak, and so you have to get used to that language every time you pick up a yo-yo. This yo-yo does not play like this yo-yo, does not play like this yo-yo. So before you decide that you hate your yo-yo, get used to the language it's speaking, and then you might be able to develop an appreciation or even a love for it. So we have the string, we have the bearing and response pads, we have the shape of the yo-yo, and now we're gonna go over the weight of the yo-yo. This one is so important to me. My favorite yo-yos are light and floaty yo-yos. I say that every time I do a yo-yo review. That is a personal preference, okay? So if you like heavier yo-yos, all power to you. I just like them light and floaty because I already play kind of clunky sometimes. So for example, when I started playing with unresponsive yo-yos, one of my first few was the Overlord by Magic Yoyos. This was not a bad yo-yo. I still use it. Sometimes you can see I switch it up a little bit, but this is heavier than some other yo-yos, so it plays differently and it feels differently when you're playing with it. Something on the complete opposite end of the spectrum is the Author by Rain City Skills. I love this yo-yo. It's one of the lightest yo-yos you can find on the market. Now, whenever we talk about weight and changing the weight, we're also talking about changing the distribution of the weight. So check out the Author. It has really skinny rims on it. Now, when we put more weight on the rims, sometimes we get a more stable yo-yo. So for example, this Beanie that I just picked up has pretty thick rims on it. The weight is right here on the yo-yo, so you miss that on the Author. This yo-yo is very stable. You can throw it off playing it's not gonna just spin out or anything. This one you'll have to be more careful about how you do your tricks. Again, this is all personal preference. It just depends on what you like. Finally, the fifth and final reason why you may just hate your brand new yo-yo is you're not ready for it. The perfect example is my first bimetal, a Grasshopper GTX from Duncan. This yo-yo is amazing, but it was my first bimetal. I had no idea what to do with it. I had no idea how it was going to play. I just was not ready for it. This is what I was playing with before I played with the Grasshopper. Look, now this is a Henry's M1. It's a brilliant yo-yo. I love it a lot. It plays completely differently from the Grasshopper though, so I just wasn't ready for the switch. If you're playing with a snack and you switch to an Atlas, you may not be ready for that switch. So just like with the shape of the yo-yo, you just might not be ready for what that yo-yo has to offer. If you're switching to bimetal, if you're switching to lightweight, if you're switching to pocket size, if you're switching to organic, those are going to be big switches if you're not used to them. So just make sure that you give it some time. If you just put 50, 60, 100, I don't know, dollars towards your yo-yo and you decide you don't like it right away, it might just be really different. So if you do hate your yo-yo, there's a few things you can do. You can use that yo-yo as your B grade. If you're not afraid of messing it up, but you're playing outside or you're, I don't know, on a bus or a train or something and you think you might drop your yo-yo or bang it up, use it as your B grade yo-yo. If you're teaching a friend how to yo-yo, give them that yo-yo so you can use the nice one. But make sure they also get to play with the nice one, so if they're completely put off by it, then you can show them it's not all that bad. But where you'll probably get the most bang for your buck is a buy-sell trade page, whether that's on Reddit or Discord or maybe someone selling on Instagram. Check those out. That's a great way to swap yo-yos with someone and get something better that does work for you. And those are my tips. I hope that you do enjoy the yo-yos that you have and you get to try some of these tips if you have a yo-yo that you're initially struggling with. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and remember to be respectful to those asking questions. Thank y'all so much for watching and we'll see you in the next video.